What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today's gonna be a little bit different. I am currently trying to get my PPL, my private pilot's license, and this is lesson number 2 for me. So I wanted to go ahead and go over my lesson with you guys. I took a video. I want to go ahead and kind of talk about the things that I'm learning. I want to watch it back. I want to learn myself. And if this is for me to learn, but also if you guys are in aviation and you guys have some tips and tricks for me just starting out, would love to hear it. Would love to have some feedback down in the comments. So what I've done right here is I've actually loaded my flight lesson into an unlisted YouTube video, and I have this cool little extension that lets me go faster than 2x because I don't have the audio recording adapter yet, which is fine. I wanted to go ahead and go over the processes, what I was learning, what this lesson was about, and everything in between. So what you're seeing right here is we've just finished our pre-flight check. We've used the tow bar, and we've now pulled the plane out to start our before starting the engine checklist. So obviously that checklist that I have in my hand is the same one right here. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of review it and kind of do a voiceover of everything that I'm learning. I actually have audio for the first few minutes here. I try to use the microphones, but the propeller was just too loud. So I have it muted after the first few minutes here. But let's go ahead and take a listen. And I kind of just want to give a voiceover. Again, this is kind of me verbalizing what I was doing, helping me hopefully close my feedback loop faster and continue to learn. So let's go ahead and dive into it. And then again, any comments you guys have along the way, please feel free to leave them down below. I would love to see them. So pre-flight complete, passengers briefed, seatbelts, harnesses on, fuel shut-off valve on, radios off, electrical equipment off, circuit breakers check in, and brake test set. So now we're doing, that was the before starting engine checklist. And now we're doing the start engine checklist. So reaching down for the mixture to set it to rich. Cold is in, or
yes, sir.
Cold is in. Prime as required, and this one's 2 pumps, same as last one.
Depends on the time of year, but yes, summertime about 2, and wintertime about 3.
So this twists.
Yeah.
So there's a little knob down here that I pull and twist twice. Pull and then I inject it twice. It's kind of like a syringe. You'll hear him talk about that.
There's a thread in there you gotta find. Just looking for that thread. Now that you found it, let it build up before you put it in. And it's like a syringe, you know?
Yep.
So just think of it as a syringe. So it doesn't get any time.
Yeah. I'm gonna try not to bore you guys too much because I go pretty slow through this. Just because this is only my second time going through it. All right, 2 pumps secure.
Right on.
Okay. Master pump prime as required. Check. Master switch on. Check. Beacon light on.
Second to the right.
Check.
There you go.
Throttle open. It's actually good to write down. I'm going to write that down on my checklist as I'm watching it. Second to the right. I should probably have it memorized, but honestly, if I can have a cheat sheet, I would like that. Second to the right. So I just wrote that down on I'm going over this checklist as I'm watching it, and I just wrote down second to the right for the switches for the beacon light.
So I gauge it by putting my finger like right here and 1/8 of an inch. I measure it from the firewall.
So he teaches me how to measure the 1/8 of an inch with the throttle. Okay. 1/8 inch prop clear.
Prop clear. Clear. Yeah, you say clear.
Okay. Ignition start. So we'll take the keys. And we will go ignition.
Yep, and feet on the brakes. One hand on the keys and one hand on the throttle. We don't know if it's just going to take off on us.
Okay, and then when it says start, it's all right, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so
and we're not only just saying clear prop, but we're
checking.
Clearing right, center, and left, and behind. We want to make sure there's not a kid that's running up or a dog or something.
Okay, we look clear. Okay. Ignition start. Okay, going left to right. And then this is where I believe the video mute. I'm going to mute it here. And then I'm just going to keep skipping through this. I just kind of want to go through that pre-check. I'll get the adapter so that you can hear our audio, hopefully next flight. But we continue to go through the start engine. So we do oil pressure check, radio on, transponder on, wing flap up, wing flaps up, mixture lean 1 inch, and then ready to taxi. So now I'll kind of go into more of what's happening visually. So we check before we taxi, and I give it a little bit of throttle. Again, for some reason, taxiing is so difficult for me. Like you see me put, like, it's a classic noob error. I put both hands on the yoke like I'm driving a car. Obviously, when it comes to aviation, you steer the plane with your feet. So I just instinctually put both hands on the yoke like a noob. And so it's good for me to watch this back and be like, okay, just put your hands, like you can have one hand on, like you don't even need a hand on the yoke for taxiing, as far as I'm concerned. But I start struggling with taxiing, so it kills me. And so you see me turning the yoke like it doesn't, like it's super instinctual. I didn't do it my first lesson because I was so focused on not touching the yoke. But this time I just didn't think about not touching the yoke. So inevitably I put my hand there. And then using the rudders. This time what we were doing was the differential braking. So in the Cessna, I mean, most planes have this. You have the pedals are like this. The rudder is the bottom half. The rudder is the bottom half, and then the top half are the brakes. And so the differential braking helps for tighter turns and helps you control the aircraft a little bit better. So we're checking again. I can't stay on this line to save my life. So it was a little bit of a struggle. I'm trying to get better at taxiing. We get here and then we do the before takeoff checklist. So it's checking that the doors are latched. He's teaching me that we're watching for traffic and that we're just kind of getting ready. He was talking to me a little bit more about the differential braking and about the yoke. He's a great instructor, so shout out to him. So I can't remember exactly what he's saying right here, but we continue with the before takeoff checklist. And I just want to show you guys something funny. I just double checked that it's recording because I just don't want to worry about it when we're in flight. I don't know why I have a death grip on the yoke. I actually test the door and it opened. So like that's why the checklist is important, is because I didn't have it latched all the way. So I'll skip it back. So it opened right there. So I'm glad I checked that. I'm testing my controls to make sure they're free and clear and correct, making sure that the rudders, the ailerons, and the elevators are all not the rudders, the ailerons and the elevators are working correctly. Flight instruments those are set, and then we do our. I want to see if once we ramp up as part of the test, you set your throttle to 1700 RPMs and to test the engine to make sure that everything's working correctly. So we ramp it up. Let me see if I can tell when we ramp it up here. So he's teaching me about the 4 gauges that we need to adjust. So making sure that our headings are accurate with the magnetic compass, and then just making sure that we're getting the right readings on the 4 gauges that we need to check before we take off. So that's we haven't ramped. I don't think we've ramped up to 1700 quite yet. So now we go. Trying to see. No, not yet. So now I think we're at 17. Yeah, we're at 1700 RPMs now. So I'm checking that the mags drop. I'm checking the carb heat. I'm checking the instrument the engine instrument, the ammeter, the suction idle with carb heat on. I'm still learning a lot more about the carb heat. That's something that I can work on. So he's teaching me that when I am testing the batteries, I should see the magnetos drop. We're testing the carb heat to make sure that the engine is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and we continue to go through the checklist. He spends a fair amount of teaching me what each of these clusters do, what each of these instruments do, which I really appreciate because it helps to learn on the ground. At 1700 RPM though, it's like, oh, this plane wants to go, so you have to be on those brakes. So we go to a 45 to make sure we can see the full pattern, to make sure we can see the base, the approach. I think there's one other word that I'm forgetting in there. Again, this is my second flight, so I'm still learning quite a bit. And then he teaches me how to talk to the ATS to clear for departure. So we do that. I tell ATS that we're heading out on runway 22, straight out departure. And then we get on our merry way. And so we make sure that for takeoff, we get on the runway, obviously. And he was controlling the rudders for takeoff, and I was controlling throttle. So I go full throttle for this. So I keep my hand there. I want to take it off, but I kept my hand there. We go full throttle. It takes a little bit to get her going. And then he said he will let me know when to pull back on the elevators to start our ascent. So we're still going. Something I want to check next time is our takeoff speed so that I can pay attention to that. And so when he told me to pull back on the elevator, it's just a slight pullback. So there we are taking off. Taking off is such a cool experience. You get tossed around a little bit at the lower altitudes, which is funny. So we're cruising. I'm probably gonna go ahead and move it to 2x now because I'll go ahead and explain why. I'll move it to 2x, and then if I need to move it to 3x, I can. But we're just cruising. We're trying to get out over the ocean to practice our maneuvers. So I'll show you guys that here in just a second. He's teaching me to just look out. We had some traffic coming through, and so he was just teaching me to watch out for traffic and what that entails. We were switching our transponder. So you can see the ocean out here. It's a little overexposed, but that's where we're heading is towards the ocean, and we actually end up heading towards the mountains. And so what the lesson was on this was ascents, descents, headings, turns, and I'll show you the Dutch rolls in here in just a second. So for some reason, I got confused for a little bit that RPMs were important when in terms of speed, which I'm sure they are, but not to the level that I was giving them. So when we're up here, what he was doing was he was giving me a heading. He's like, all right, go to heading 280, climb and maintain 3,500. And so I would get us to 3,500 feet, which is the altimeter right here. And then I would focus on getting to the heading, or he'd be like, descend to 2,500 at heading 150 and maintain 80 knots, things like that. And so he was teaching me how to ascend, descend appropriately. Something that I learned is when we ascend, we're going like a rocket. When we're descending, we're falling like a rock. So when it comes to descending, a lot of it is in the speed. If you're just going to descend like 100 feet or so, then you're just going to push on the elevator a little bit and you can kind of get your descent quickly, but your airspeed will pick up dramatically if you don't change the speed. So if you're trying to descend, then you reduce the power significantly so that you can get your descent a lot faster and you're not going down like a rocket. You kind of just want to fall. So we're at altitude, and this is when he's teaching me. I think we're just doing headings, and he's explaining turns a little bit. My turns, it felt from my first lesson, were a lot smoother. I'd just done a lot of mental reps since then, and so my turns were a lot smoother, and I was able to go 180 degrees without any issue. I was able to. I don't know. I'm forgetting what the instrument is called right now, but there's this little ball in what we call the little jail, and it tells me how my turns are, how appropriate they are. And so I felt like this lesson was significantly better. It's super fun. It's beautiful flying over the ocean, flying towards the islands, flying along the coast. Couldn't pick a better place to fly. I freaking love it. So we just worked on turns and headings for a while. I want to get to the point where he talks about Dutch rolls, which I think we're going to head there in just a second. This might be the Dutch rolls. Okay, so I wish I could get the audio for you guys. I'll work on that next time. So we're getting back to 3,500 feet, and I think this is where he teaches me the Dutch rolls. So he wanted to teach me so I had my discovery flight, which I don't really count as a lesson. So I have my discovery flight, lesson 1, and then lesson 2. Discovery flight we can call lesson 0. Lesson 0, I was trying to turn the plane with the ailerons, and then lesson 2, I was doing like all rudder. Like I learned how to turn the plane with all rudder. And so on lesson 3, lesson 2, he was teaching me the relation, like it's not one or the other, it's just a relationship between the two. And so that was the point of Dutch rolls, is teaching me the lesson, the what happens if you do just ailerons, what happens if you do just rudders, and what happens if you do both. It's kind of like a dance, like you want both. And so what we did was he had me take these rivets right here and put it on a seam. So like this was Point Magoo right here. We put it here, and it's like make sure that these beads right here stay on this line, and we want to tilt the aircraft left and right. These are called Dutch rolls. So he goes ahead and shows me how to do them, and then he does them to a much larger degree. And so we were watching how the point of the plane, the nose of the plane, wouldn't change, even though we were doing elevators and ailerons. Sorry, not elevators and ailerons, rudders and ailerons. And so we were practicing just the relationship between both, which was really fun. Like this was fun. I will be honest, it made me extremely, extremely, extremely nauseous. Almost to the point where I said something, but I was once it was right to the point that I was like, okay, like, I'm good. Um, so but it was really good to learn. Like I enjoyed learning the principle because it helped me understand the relationship. I think that's the last time I checked to make sure the camera was recording because I just wanted to make sure that I remembered this. So we practiced these really steep turns, but still having the point of the nose maintain where it was. Um, Actually, we might be turning towards we were turning towards the mountains. And then so he wanted me to give it a try. And so he's like, keep your nose. There were some radio towers, right? He was like, keep your nose on those radio towers and practice doing the Dutch rolls. Obviously, you can see that I'm not perfect at it. The first time that I did it, he's actually like, wow, this is pretty good. Something else that he complimented me on was when we were doing the headings. And I want to point out where some of my strengths and my weaknesses are. Weakness, definitely taxiing for sure. He did compliment me on saying like, hey, you're doing a really good job at repeating what I say, because he would say like runway heading 280, climb maintain 3500, and I would repeat it. And he's like, wow, like that's really good that you're repeating it already, because you're gonna remember it so much better if you can repeat it. So I appreciated that compliment from him. So here are me practicing the Dutch rolls. I'm not very good at it, and so he's like, okay, if you need to if you mess up, just reset. Don't try to recover it bad, just reset it. And so it wasn't perfect. So I could do the first couple, and then my mistakes would get bigger and bigger. You can see, it took me the evening to kind of like not get nauseous from this. And he said that if you do the Dutch rolls correctly, you won't be nauseous. So it just takes some practice and some getting used to. So that was fun. It was a good lesson to learn. I think we flipped a 180 here to go back and try it on Point Magoo. And so you can see it's super funny. I wasn't very good on this one. I think I was starting to get pretty nauseous, which was funny. And so that's a little. That's a little bit better. When I did it smaller, I could do it. It was the bigger Dutch rolls that were getting me, and so that was fun. And then this is the point where we start heading back, and this was actually where I learned a lot. I felt pretty good about. He was teaching us about descent time. And so we did the math, and he's like, all right, if we're descending, I can't remember the exact scenario. He's like, all right, if we're descending 500 feet a minute, how much will we descend in 1 minute? Okay, obviously 500 feet. It was a little, the math that he did was a little bit more, the scenario he gave was a little more complicated. So he sets a timer on the clock right here, and he's like, all right, let's time it. And so we were pretty spot on. So that was meaning that our descent rate was pretty good. So here he is setting the timer. And so we timed our descent rate to see if it would match our instruments, and it was pretty close. It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty close. Probably was user error being me. But it was just so beautiful at sunset, flying out over the ocean. So we go to this bridge out here. We contact Santa Paula, and we start for our approach to land. I don't land in this video. He does. But it was still nice having him teach me how to get to the appropriate descent levels and how to get into the pattern for Santa Paula. Overall, this was a ton of fun. I continue to really like it. It's really hard. Aviation is very hard. The learning curve is steep, but I think I'm getting it a little bit at a time, just by adding small little notes to my checklist to remember. And I want to show you guys his landing really quick. So we get in. The landings, like I've done a lot of landings. This landing seems a little more crazy to me. Just the way that you have to come in from the turn. But the landing is so cool. It just feels like you're floating. So take a look at this. So we come in for the landing, and perfect. It was great. So landing went great. I didn't land. He was just like, all right, my controls. So I'm not quite to the point of landing yet. He told me that he wants me to do one more lesson of climbing descents, heading changes, and things like that. And then he wants me to start working on my 10, 20, 30 degree banks. So that's what I have next coming up. So then we land, and we do we did our before landing checklist in the air, which is only 5 things. Now we do our landing checklist. And then we have our after landing checklist. So making sure that our wing flaps are up, the carpeet's on cold, the strobes landing light are off, and the trim is reset. And then we go on right. Yeah, my taxi here was so bad. Watch, I'll show you how bad it was. So I don't know what happened. So I'm supposed to keep the nose of the plane on this yellow line, just totally whiff. And then for some reason I tried, he's like, nope, no shortcuts. I don't know what, I don't know why I did that, but try to get us back on the line here and get us there. I think he was helping me a little bit with the rudder work, but I just completely missed. Like the nose was pointing that way, like almost 90 degrees off, which is bad. I'm very bad at taxiing, so I really want to get good at that. And then we get to the point where once we get right next to the planes, he takes over, which is fine. And yeah, I did the same thing where I'd grab he's like, the yoke doesn't do anything. So a lot to learn when it comes to taxiing. That was on the struggle bus with that one. We do the securing aircraft checklist. So brakes on, mixture, lean 1 inch. We go to 1700 RPMs for 15 seconds. I get 1700 RPMs the plane wants to go. So we make sure the brakes are really, really set. We go to 1700 RPMs right here for about 15 seconds. I counted to 15 Mississippi in my head. And then after that, we do radio off, mixture idle cutoff. Then we go magnetos keys out. And then he's like, as soon as you take the keys out, you put it on here so that the ground crew knows that the keys are out. So that's me doing the mixture lean 1 inch. That's mixture idle cutoff, keys out, master off, electrical switches off, control lock install. So I reach back and we move the plane back to its spot. And that is that. So that was lesson 2. I do this because it's really like I already learned a few things watching it back. And just like football, when we play a game, we watch the game film, we learn, and we do better. So if you guys are in aviation and you guys have some tips and tricks, please leave them down in the comments. In terms of pride, I try to have none in aviation, and I think that's an okay thing. I don't want to have any pride. I always want to be learning because there's just so much to learn, and there are things that can go wrong. And I just want to make sure that I'm doing everything correctly. Obviously, lesson 2, so I'm not super far down the road yet, but I'm really enjoying it. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like it, consider liking and subscribing. Again, I would appreciate the comments. And like always, see you next time. Thanks for watching.